During the next half hour, we'll give you a first-hand look at the great work being done at Holy Trinity School for the Deaf in Chicago's near West Side. Immigrants from more than 40 countries celebrate the National Migration Week Mass at Holy Name Cathedral. We'll hear what Cardinal Blaise Cupich said in his homily. And hundreds of students from across the Archdiocese attend the African American Heritage Prayer Service. We have highlights. Welcome to the Spring 2017 edition of Sanctuary. Hello, I'm Father Greg Sakowicz, Rector of Holy Name Cathedral. It's a busy time for the Archdiocese of Chicago's immigration ministry, given the current challenges faced by immigrants and refugees. The ministry's mission, in part, is to advocate for compassionate immigration reform. The ministry also educates Catholics and the general public regarding the basic human dignity of immigrants and how they benefit our nation. In an effort to further its outreach to communities, the Immigration Ministry recently held a seminar for priests to help them better deal with the ever-changing landscape of immigration.
Things have changed so rapidly and are changing daily that I think the confusion leads to fear, and we're trying not to move in that direction, but the confusion, hopefully to ask some more questions to get clarification. And luckily, thanks be to God, resources are available in our Archdiocese through our Pastoral Meditoria group that we have in our parish and many parishes. So it really helps to get some specific information. What do we know and what do we not know? So I think that's kind of really helping people to move back from fear, and really the sense of the faith. It's like we are people of faith. We've been given this gift of Jesus Christ, and of all times, we should remember this now, but it's amazing how we sometimes forget. It's like, wait a minute, there's something bigger, someone bigger than all of this confusion and political change and questioning. So I think that's our job as ministers.
There is a lot of fear in the immigrant community right now, and the families who are suffering from this fear is very real. We can't ignore that, and I think what we are trying to do now is ensure that people are informed regarding their legal rights and their legal remedies. When we first saw deferred action for childhood arrivals, we did consultations for thousands of individuals, and of those individuals, 15% were eligible for more permanent forms of immigration relief. So I think it's really important at this time to try to alleviate the fears, is that people get good legal advice.
We are in need, real need, because we are spiritual leaders, but as well the people come for different hope and advices, especially during this time they need some advices with the legal issues, and we have at our parish, like example, my parish is a lot of people undocumented, and they have some fear, and we see that when we work together, when we got the advices from professionals that help us to share with our community, with our people, with our parishioners, and we can really help them.
The church and other organizations within the communities, I think those institutions that are really the foundation of those communities can be very helpful in light of circumstances, in terms of not only providing that physical space, but also that direct sort of resource of information. So, if an NJC has information about something new, if the Chicago Volunteer Legal Services has information about something new, we would want to make sure that those partnerships exist so that we can communicate that information, and then the church can distribute that information to their parishioners and the community members.
Our role as priests is to shepherd people, is to accompany them, to walk with them, to listen to them, to pay attention to their needs. That's always been the job of priests, shepherds. It doesn't matter what the issue is. We always need to be attentive to what the people are feeling, what they're going through, with things that they need help, so that we can respond. I mean, that's the job of a pastor.
Resource packets were passed out to all the priests with immigration materials that could be distributed at their parishes. Since our last program, there was a great turnout for National Migration Week Mass at Holy Name Cathedral. The opening procession included people from more than 40 nations. Here's a portion of the homily by Cardinal Blaise Cupich, along with a portion of our Catholic Chicago program in which the Cardinal discussed immigration with Office for Divine Worship Director Todd Williamson.
There is great joy that the Church experiences day after day as it works with migrants and immigrants, as it's involved in literacy programs and teaching people English, of helping them get a job, of our Catholic charities reaching out to people who are in need, of having people work together in parishes in order to find places of employment and living for those who come to our land. We do this ever joyful because we see that our lives are enriched. Again, it's the antidote to fear that we see in the world today.
Wow. Reaching out as an antidote to fear. Now, earlier in the homily, you talked about following Christ, being called to follow Christ, and how that calls us to not be afraid. So there's a common theme there.
Well, it is. And I think that is, when we look, for instance, at the Magi, they had all reasons to fear because they were coming into a foreign land, and yet they followed the light. They followed the star, and they allowed Jesus to lead them into a situation. Well, that also, in a very ironic way, broke down the fears of the people who saw them. Can you imagine what it was like for Mary and Joseph and the people around that stable to have all of these people come in with camels and all the rest of it? Foreigners, all these foreigners, to come to say, we are pleased to be part of this moment. That is what I think the immigrants are saying too. They're not here to take. They're many times they're giving more than they receive, and I think that that's important to keep in mind. But all of us have to keep our eyes fixed on the light of the gospel in all of this. We can't think just about our fears or perhaps the fear-mongering and the rhetoric of other people who want us to make us afraid. We have to dig deep down and say, what is the light of the gospel telling us with regard to the stranger, to the visitor, to the person who comes into our midst, who is different than ourselves? The gospel surely demands more than fear and repelling them.
Fear can be one of the biggest obstacles to the gospel, no?
Jesus said it time and again. Right after the resurrection, his first message was, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. When he called Peter, and Peter began to sink, he said, don't be afraid. Time and again, Jesus realized that fear is the manipulation of the evil one. It is something that makes us do things that are irrational, and things also that paralyze us from responding to the gospel. So whenever we see fear as part of the discussion, we should immediately, as Christians, identify this as the work of the evil one.
We need to hear that in your letter, to our viewers now, in the preaching. I just think that's so important at this time in our history.
Well, it was in a moment that this nation faced great economic and also military challenges with the Depression and the Second World War, that the leader of our country stood up and say, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And I think that we have to keep that in mind. We should fear fear itself because it can paralyze us. We should put it aside, however.
The fears and concerns of immigrants were a big part of the discussion at Immaculate Conception Church on 44th Street in Chicago. That's where the Spanish television network, Telemundo, broadcast a town hall meeting with comments from Cardinal Cupich, a panel that included Immaculate Conception's pastor, Father Manny Durantes, and an audience willing to share their feelings about immigration uncertainty. Looking out for the marginalized covers many things, and topping that list is protection of the unborn. Thousands of people participated in the March for Life Chicago this winter. The march began with a rally in Federal Plaza.
You speak on behalf of those who have no voice because their voice is too small or weak, muted or marginalized, snubbed and silenced. And so today we raise our voice with the simple and direct message: life wins.
Always a great turnout for the March for Life Chicago. Now let's switch gears and visit a very special school on Chicago's near west side. It's a school that has served the deaf and hard of hearing community for 60 years. Producer Jim Dish and videographer Michael May give us a first-hand look at Holy Trinity School for the deaf.
Welcome to a morning prayer service at Children of Peace Catholic School at 1900 West Taylor Street in Chicago. What makes this prayer service so special is that it includes about 40 children who are deaf or hard of hearing. They attend Holy Trinity School for the Deaf on the Children of Peace campus. Holy Trinity has served the deaf community for 60 years. 2 women being honored this year have filled the role of principal for 57 of those years, and their combined service at Holy Trinity is an incredible 99 years. Phyllis Winter was the school's first principal. As a member of the Sisters of Christian Unity, she helped launch the school in 1957, and she's still active at Holy Trinity today.
Phyllis Winter sort of exemplifies that Christian virtue of perseverance. This is a woman who came here as a religious when there was a neighborhood here, when Holy Trinity was just a small school, and through all these years of setting up the University of Illinois and creating the medical center and the neighborhood kind of disappearing, this woman has just stayed and stayed and stayed, totally focused on one thing: the education of children who are deaf and hard of hearing.
It was a great privilege for me to begin to serve with these youngsters. A challenge for sure, and it was a huge difference from teaching regular hearing children. To come into a room where the children had no language whatever, and to begin to use what I could suggest, pictures, experience, and putting that into language for them. It was hard work, but it was so wonderful to see these youngsters grow with their language, with their speech, and to know that they were going to be able to really rise as great citizens someday.
Phyllis Winter's passion for teaching the deaf and hard of hearing is mirrored in the creative and innovative work of her successor, Arlene Redmond.
Arlene is the daughter of deaf parents. And growing up, her goal was to become a teacher for children who were deaf and hard of hearing. She achieved that goal, came here as a teacher, then became the director of the deaf program, then became the principal of the school. Not to the exclusion of hearing children. Actually, what Arlene did was amazing. She worked with children who were deaf, but said, wait, let the hearing kids participate in that. And so we have something that's called reverse mainstreaming. So mainstreaming, the idea is you put children who are deaf into hearing classes. Well, now we take some hearing kids and we put them into deaf classes. So they learn to communicate in voice and sign too. Just an amazing educator.
And thanks to educators who are following in Arlene Redmond's footsteps, Holy Trinity delivers on its philosophy of total communication. That means helping deaf and hard of hearing children learn in both the deaf and hearing worlds. Students look up to role models such as Michael Garage, an alumnus of Holy Trinity, who is now a teacher's aide.
I worked here for 3 years, and when I began, I came as an aide, and then I started looking back at the teachers I had and how I admired those teachers and what they had done with the deaf. So that's kind of what I want to do, is be a teacher, a full-time teacher in the future.
Students are evaluated and placed in the best learning environment to fit their needs. They learn with other deaf and hard of hearing students and are mainstreamed into Children of Peace classrooms when appropriate. Hearing students at Children of Peace are even taught the basics of signing. For hearing impaired students, learning at Holy Trinity is a fun experience.
So I'm going to give
But I like the math and science.
You like the math, the science, social studies,
and
language arts.
I like that culture.
He likes deaf culture.
I like the basketball.
He likes basketball, volleyball.
Why do you think Mom and Dad sent you to this particular school instead of sending you to a public school? Because there's a deaf program here and deaf children. What is special about Holy Trinity School? What do you really learn here that you would not learn in a public school? I would learn religion. Can you tell me some of the sacraments that you have already prepared for and have finished? My older teacher, Miss Farrell, she prepared us for the sacraments of reconciliation and for Eucharist. That's wonderful.
While the children of Holy Trinity are excited to go to school every day, their parents remain thankful that such a school and its dedicated group of teachers are ever present for their kids. Michelle Mendiola is a Holy Trinity graduate who now has 2 deaf children attending the school.
The staff and the teachers, they are the best. They are just amazing. They're very, very supportive and willing to work with me, my children. It's been a very successful experience at a successful school.
60 years of success, to be exact. Congratulations to all involved. With videographer Mike May, this is Jim Dish reporting from Holy Trinity School for the Deaf.
Congratulations to the dedicated staff, the parents, and students at Holy Trinity School who continue to build on the great history of that school. On the Friday before Lent began, there was a full house at Holy Name Cathedral. Hundreds of Catholic school students attended the 39th annual African American Heritage Prayer Service. Our communications office was on hand to record some of the highlights.
The African American Heritage Prayer Service brought together students, administrators, and clergy to celebrate the rich history of Black Catholics in the Archdiocese of Chicago.
O most gracious God, visit us this day. Bless this day. Bless all the students here. Bless our schools, our principals, our churches. Bless our presiders and all of our honored guests. Bless our homes, our communities, and our nation.
Celebrate with us today as we gather together in your name, for you are the light of the world. May we decrease and allow you to increase in our lives so that we can be strengthened to live and not die, to proclaim the works of the Lord.
With you, Moja, as we worship from our roots. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Taking part in the prayer service were the second African American priest ever ordained in Chicago, Father George Clemens, and the newest African American priest ordained here, Father Michael Trail.
Today is your day in which we can celebrate you. We can celebrate the gift of blackness. We can celebrate the beauty of blackness. We can celebrate the beauty of our Catholic faith in its blackness. Today is a day in which we can do that. Today is an opportunity to do that.
During the prayer service, awards were presented to Mrs. Helen Dumas, principal of St. Sabina Academy, and Dr. Denise Davis Spells, principal of St. Ethelreda School. They were honored for their outstanding service to Catholic education in the Archdiocese. Also honored for being role models to their peers were Markel Anderson, a graduate of Christ the King Jesuit College Preparatory School, and Jessica Booker, a senior at Holy Trinity High School. Catholic School Superintendent Dr. Jim Rigg talked about the gift of diversity in our Catholic schools.
Nearly half of the 78,000 students that attend school in the Archdiocese of Chicago are students of color. And so we celebrate our unity in diversity today. We also, of course, celebrate the beauty and truth of Jesus Christ, who calls us to live lives of goodness and hope. And so while we celebrate our diversity, we know in the end there is no black or white or brown, there is no rich or poor, no city or suburb, no north side or south side. In the end, we are unified as one people in humankind, called to goodness and joy, love, compassion, and justice.
It will be ours, oh, one day. When the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure, oh, glory.
Another annual celebration that takes place at Holy Name Cathedral is a Golden Jubilee Mass for couples celebrating 50 years of marriage. Our radio TV office has produced a video for the Archdiocesan Marriage Ministry to help give inspiration and advice to couples about to be married. Let's take a look.
Nearly 500 couples celebrate 50 years of marriage at the Golden Wedding Anniversary Mass at Holy Name Cathedral. Several of the couples were eager to share their joys, their challenges, and their advice for building a successful marriage.
For us as a couple, most of all is communication, and it also helped us a lot that we are from the same culture, the same religion, we have the same likes and dislikes, and for us it was planning and having goals and accomplishing them.
We have been a team from the very beginning. We've always been a cheerleader. We're the #1 cheerleader for each other. We've always been there to support one another. When things came about and there was a need for compromise, we were eager to do that.
We've always stood up for each other, and before she even knew it, I was in her corner.
Lots of discussion. We've always talked to each other. We're really, I know it's trite, we're really friends. We really are.
It is having a sense of humor and always being forthright. Communication. Don't hold anything back. And don't go in it with the idea of, if it doesn't work, no big deal. No, it's a commitment. It's a commitment to yourselves as well as our Lord.
We never made a decision without consulting each other, and, you know, whether it be children, whatever, you know.
And we never ran when things got rough. We stuck around and settled it.
There must be enough love to overcome all kinds of obstacles, you know, the ups and downs, the good times and the bad times. And the truth is, I found a woman that truly adores me. And I worship her at the same time.
Okay,
that's how our marriage lasts. And then if we argue, we always come halfway. But between me and her, it's all honeymoon every day.
Okay, Daddy.
My faith that comes from my family. They always encourage us to be honest, to be God-fearing people. My mother would make us go to church. I was involved in the church when I was young, and being true as far as what your beliefs are.
It gives us strength, and it just gives us courage. You know, we know that there's someone higher that's going to help us through all this. When we did have children, we started getting involved in the parish, trying to set a good example for our children to have, to keep God in their heart and in prayer every day.
I know whenever I'm tested, the first one I go to is Jesus, and ask Him to strengthen me so that I could solve my problem. I don't want Him to solve it. I want Him to help me, but I say He has the great part in it, a great part in helping us through what just little hardships that we've had in 50 years.
Faith has been very important in our relationship and the development of our family. It truly is the fabric that holds our family together. When we got married, we really took our vows very seriously, for the better and the worse. When the worst came along, we had to really rely on our faith, and that has brought us through this.
I think that they should speak to each other regarding their expectations. What do they expect of the marriage? What are your goals for life? What do you see yourself doing from 10, 15 years later on?
Love plus laughter equals 50. That's it.
Each party, if they give 70% to their spouse and only expect 30% in return, you'll never have a problem. And if you think about that, it's logical.
And it works.
One of the biggest things is if you come to an impasse, you cannot settle a thing, then you move on. You agree to disagree.
Marriage takes a great deal of work, hard work, and there's nothing that can beat it.
And I can add to that, identifying those things that make us different, but embracing those things that bring us together, that we can share, that it's the same thing.
We started out, we worked so hard, we each had a couple of jobs, and all of a sudden we woke up and here we were and wondered how we got here.
Yes.
And that pretty much sums it up.
I think having a sense of humor and bantering with one another and laughing sometimes at our faults has helped. And of course, most of all, respect for one another.
You build that foundation.
Love. For me, love is the number one thing. And for me, you know what? Because for me, with love, you give excuses. You give excuses. Oh, he's not perfect, and I'm not perfect too. But because there's love.
I make mistake, I think one time in 50 years.
I'm sorry.
But anyhow, I'm truly happy that I married this woman. Truly.
Great advice and a very helpful video for engaged couples. As we wrap up this program, a reminder that the video you just saw and hundreds of additional videos are always available to watch on our YouTube channels, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago and youtube.com/Chicago Catholico. Thanks for watching Sanctuary. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz. The Lord bless you and hold you in the palm of His hand.